Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this pitching session on the patient-generated evidence to improve outcomes, support decision-making, and accelerate innovation. Before we start with the presentations, I would like to kindly remind you that we are recording the session, and all the presentations as well as the recording will be available at IHI's website. We'll send you a link once this is published. And secondly, I would like just to remind you as well how you can contact the presenters for the session and where you can find their information. You can either go to the Pictures tab on the top menu, or on the agenda for this session or for all the pitching sessions, you have the list of presenters, and just below you have the list of speakers, so you can find and contact them via the platform as well. So thank you very much for attending today. I'll give the floor to our first speaker, Anjali.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angélie. I work at the Innovation Office of the University of Basel in Switzerland. Next. So today we are talking about antimicrobial resistance, the project that we would like to run. Just to put into the context, antimicrobial resistance is more than 1 million deaths per year, and the forecasts are very much dramatic. From a study from the Lancet in January 2022, we could reach 10 million deaths by 2050, which will overtake cancer. The cost would be also very high if we are looking at the global economy impact. The estimate are around 100 trillion. So this has been declared as a priority by the World Health Organization, and also to give you a bit of perspective, we are actually looking at AMR actually is caused by misuse of antibiotics. We are lacking treatments, but the main cause is really the misuse of antibiotics. So what we want to do is to be able to develop an effective solution to slow down the resistance and preserve the current antibiotic pipelines. And we would like actually to develop a digital solution with leveraging the data. And we want basically to change the behavior of patients by empowering them to strengthen the prevention and improve antibiotic adherence and usage. Next. So what we would like to do here is really to look at the patient piece, and I'll go back to what we are already looking at and developing with our existing consortium. So basically, I'm calling it Digital Companion, but actually it's going to be also a digital platform where we would like to also collect the data. So in one hand, if we look at the web interface, we could basically provide educational material for patients and citizens, but very much in an efficient format using cognitive psychology. And we would like also to develop a healthcare professional patient interface. The idea would be to go in different various European countries, including Switzerland, to test different interventions, because it's not only one solution which is efficient today, but we have also to do some research and basically run some comparative studies, clinical trials. The baseline would be also to, as I mentioned before, have a personalized approach using cognitive psychology profiling. So in the end, we will be able to collect and monitor the self-reported outcomes, measure quality of life and treatment adherence. The main target that we would like to go for is about women looking at women's health, but with a strong, let's say, focus on urinary tract infection and chlamydia. Next slide. So what we have today is an existing consortium, which is called Spearhead. It's a Swiss consortium, but actually we're also looking at expanding it to other countries, including Europe. What we bring is top QL infectious disease clinicians. We have also in the team artificial intelligence and machine learning researchers. We have design and UX researchers, as well as health psychology researchers. Next slide. So in terms of partnering, we are very much welcoming pharmaceutical industries who are interested in fighting antimicrobial resistance, or actually looking at beyond the pill services to support their healthcare professionals and patients, because antimicrobial resistance is also affects cancer, diabetes, women's health, elderly care, cystic fibrosis patients. Also startups who are looking at AMR and drug adherence, or already have some similar digital health solutions. We're also looking for expertise in IT and data science, but also we are very much looking for partners in clinical and hospital outside Switzerland. Just to remind that Switzerland is not eligible to receive the fund. However, we in Switzerland we can match the funding, so we will be an associated partner. So we are looking for also an organization that could actually run the call, and we would be an associated partner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Halil. And I would like to call to our virtual stage the next speaker, Caroline.
Yes, hello, thank you. Our expertise is in patient-reported outcome measures, or PROMs. There is increasing evidence that using PROMs in daily clinical practice can actually improve the quality of healthcare and the quality of life of patients. But there are a lot of challenges and barriers for successful implementation of PROMs in integrated healthcare systems. And despite large efforts, many patients can still not benefit from these positive effects of PROMs. Next slide, please. So we aim to integrate outcomes that patients value most into routine clinical care. One of the main barriers for successful implementation of PROMs in clinical care is the large variation in patient-reported outcomes and patient-reported outcome measures used in research and clinical practice. And this makes results from care and research incomparable. It hampers implementation of PROMs in clinical practice, and it's basically a waste of resources. So standardization of PROMs is urgently needed to link data from different sources and to ensure that all patients can benefit from the positive effects of PROMs used in clinical practice. The PROMIS measurement system offers a solution to these many challenges of current PROM use. This system offers one widely applicable sustainable measurement system to measure the most important patient-reported outcomes in all patients, regardless of their disease, across the world. The system has already been translated in more than 60 languages. The PROMIS methodology is revolutionary because it's actually a complete shift of focus. First of all, PROMIS focuses on measuring the health of patients rather than disease. And second, it uses modern psychometric techniques to develop flexible and sustainable measurement scales rather than fixed PROMs. And only the combination of these two features can actually solve all the many challenges of the current PROM use. And finally, PROMIS scores can also be combined into a single preference-based scores, which enables the integration of PROMs and PPI. Next slide, please. So we participate and advise in various international consortia to standardize PROs and PROMs in core outcome sets. For example, we participated in the development of a national core outcome set of PROMs in the Netherlands. We participate in the development, linguistic translation, validation and implementation of the PROMIS measurement system and other PROMs across the world. And we developed and distribute an evidence-based online PROM platform and implementation strategy to include PROMs in routine clinical care. Next. So what we offer for a consortium is expertise in all aspects of the PROM lifecycle, from item writing to psychometric analysis to visual score interpretation and implementation. We also have a large network of experts and clinical groups across countries in and outside of Europe, which can make us an attractive partner in consortia focusing on PROMs. Next slide, please. And finally, what we are seeking is a capable consortium coordinator that seeks to advance patient care with the use of prompts. And we are open to multiple avenues for us to provide a substantial contribution to this effort. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Caroline. And our next speaker in our virtual stage is Petar.
Hello, everybody. My name is Petar Mikhailov, and I'm working at MySynergy, a Bulgarian health tech company with 20 plus experts and 10 plus years of experience in creation and implementation of products and services for value-based healthcare. And today I'd like to present to you our new project called Innovative Decision Support System, Improving Patient Outcomes with Multiple Myeloma. Next slide, please. We have decided to initiate this project because our previous experience has pointed out to us several unmet needs in the treatment of multiple myeloma and other types of cancer. Such needs are, first of all, there is no system nor methodology established to monitor and analyze multiple myeloma with value-based outcomes from real-world data, including PROMs, CROMs, PREMs, and PPI. We believe that patients should be more informed about everything regarding their condition, which would make them capable to make decisions about treatment. Also, there's no healthcare provider support system to take decision about treatment in place, and the current patient pathways are not as effective as they should be. Another unmet need is the need for research support system in order to give scientists the opportunities to create new therapies based on real-world data. And last but not least, institutions should be supported in their reimbursement approval. So what we believe to be the solution is the establishment of a decision support system for multiple myeloma based on patient-centered outcome measures, including PROMs, CROMs, PREMs, and again, PPI. Next slide, please. The potential results that such a solution may deliver are quite significant, such as improvement of the efficiency of multiple myeloma therapies, patients becoming more involved in the treatment decision and care process, providing support to healthcare providers during the treatment process and to pharma in order to improve therapies, institutions receiving support in reimbursement approval, based on real-world evidence, establishment of a decision support system with proven interoperability in data quality, which is guaranteed and developed according to the HL7 standard, and development of a core system in a standardized way to support multiple cancer disease areas. Next slide, please. The project is planned to be implemented in the following 3 steps. Step 1 would last approximately 18 months and includes platform and application development, CROMs, PREMs, and PPI definition, data storage enablement, and data standardization based on the latest HL7 standard, PROMs, and system implementation. Also, physician trainings on data extraction and evaluation and patient onboarding. Step 2, which would take around 12 months, is about collecting clinical data reports from physicians and patient data. Whereas step 3, which would last around half a year, would involve creating data visualizations and dashboards, outcomes monitoring, and continual process of improvement and data analysis. Next slide, please. The expertise and resources we can offer include the collaborative efforts of MySynergy, the International Consortium of Health Outcome Measurements, or ICHOM, 2 hospitals that are also part of the project, the National Oncology Hospital of Sofia, Bulgaria, and the University Hospital St. Marina Pleven. The Bulgarian Joint Cancer Network and Bulgarian Lymphoma Patients Association participate as well in the project. Next slide, please. In terms of the expertise we seek, what we are looking for are partners with expertise and experience in PREMs and PPI definition, and also contributors. And that is the conclusion of our pitch presentation. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Petar, for your presentation. So our next speaker is Brett. The stage is yours.
Great, thank you. So we are putting together a consortium called Patient Voice, That is the patient value and outcomes in integrated care development and evaluation. I'm Brett Halber from Pfizer and leading from the industry side, and we are working with Esther de Becker from Erasmus University Rotterdam, who will be the coordinating center. If we can go to the next slide, please. So our challenge, or the challenge that we hope to address, is to be able to develop, starting with a conceptual model and ending with a practical roadmap and toolkit, the best way to integrate patient input using PROMS, PPI, and PREMS into integrated care solutions. So our outputs, we hope, that we plan to have from this study would be tools for integrating these methods at different points along the healthcare continuum, guidance for integrated care solutions that allows us to use standardized and structured patient input that better responds to people's needs and preferences, approaches to doing this efficiently and effectively by creating a roadmap that will allow us to ensure that the appropriate combination of patient input is used at different points in the care continuum. We want to ensure that all data are consistent with FAIR principles. And ideally, we will have a standardized patient input set that will include PROMs, preferences, and PREMs. And by a standard input set, we want the project to determine what that is, so that we don't want to define that too much ahead of time, because part of what we want to do is understand what is appropriate, how much standardization is appropriate across the care life cycle and the life cycle of a novel or innovative care or integrated care solution. However, the goal would be that at each point in the life cycle, we would be talking about individual PREMs, PROMs, and PROs that are most likely to be useful and why they are most likely to be useful, and whether or not that differs by type of disease. So if we go to the next slide, please. So we intend to look at the implementation of using these measures. We're not talking necessarily about developing new measures unless we identify significant gaps. As this call states pretty clearly, we're talking about integrated care programs, and we want to look at the implementation of these patient input measures throughout the full life cycle of the integrated care program. And key to our study is a number of case studies. And we want to ensure that these case studies are conducted throughout Europe, are conducted in a number of different disease areas. And so far we have identified through the consortium a number of different potential disease areas that will ensure that when we put all of the case studies together, we can generalize about the most effective use of preferences, PROMs, and PREMs in integrated care. We go to the next slide, please. So essentially, we have a great deal of expertise, but also a lot of needs in this consortium. So to begin with, we have a number of private sector partners or industry partners from the IHI member groups. We have an academic coordinating center, and from a methodological perspective, we have 4 methodological academic partners. Some of the case study partners have already been identified, and they would be clinical academic partners. We are beginning to assemble groups of patient organizations, regulators, HTA bodies, and professional societies that are interested in working with us for a particular, or to the extent possible, either as contributors to the research or on advisory boards. And we have a project manager in place, which we're really excited about. Our goal would be to have the private industry members assemble in-kind contributions of 10 million euro over 5 years that would be eligible for matching for the public sector partners. And go to the next slide, please. So what we're really looking for are two types of partners. The first is clinical academic partners, particularly those with expertise in the disease area we are studying, where we may be able to work with such partners to develop case studies and implement case studies. So the expertise in the disease area may or may not be associated with a hospital that would become part of the case study. But certainly we're looking at integrated care settings, which would typically be hospitals, in which we could implement the case studies. And we're also particularly interested in expertise in both guidelines and in integrated care as a practice, where we would be combining multiple technologies and multiple approaches to treatment, as well as multiple areas of expertise. So most of us in this consortium have expertise in our individual areas, so we are looking for some expertise in integrated care as a whole, as well as people who are interested in or have expertise or experience in practice guidelines. And then finally, the piece that we are looking for that is currently we don't have a lot of is technology partners. Similar to some of the pitches we've heard today, we are looking for the systems to integrate data for capturing patient-generated data and patient input that comes from PREMs, PROMs, and patient preferences that can be used in clinical decision support, that can be collated for evaluation. So we're looking for software, for apps, for data management, for clinical support system type technology partners. And I believe that may be the last slide. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you very much, Brett,
Okay,
for your contribution. I
Thank
would
you.
like to call Nirki. It's our next presenter.
Thank you very much for having me. Right, I'm Nurki Rantanen. I work at the Helsinki University Hospital, and I'm here to introduce our pitch for this call. Our pitch is called The Digital Health Village. Next slide, please. Basically, the challenge that we have identified is that gathering PROMs, PREMs, and PPI data is often fragmented into multiple point solutions, and this can be troublesome for the people who are interested in using and analyzing this data. We propose to improve the situation by utilizing an existing platform that we have developed here in Finland called the Digital Health Village. And by doing that, we want to create a structured and uniform, generalizable mechanism, but also a framework for gathering patient feedback and data. Next slide, please. Thank you. The platform that I mentioned is called Digital Health Village, and it's a collection of digital care paths that relate both to primary and secondary care. It's already widely used in Finland, servicing currently over 300 different patient groups and purposes. These digital care paths are individual to the patient. They are accessed by referral from a doctor, and they function as a two-way communication channel and a means of delivering care. And we also see them as a means of gathering PROMs, PREMs, and PPI data. What we want to do, perhaps with your help in this project, is to develop and expand some of these paths selected as pilots, and we want to build a new system to integrate into these paths for gathering patient input and patient-generated evidence, and also different types of medical and wellness data connected from remote readable devices. From the experiences gathered in these pilots, we would then want to expand into a structured framework for the future to improve how the gathered data is used to gain insights and improve service to patients. Next slide, please. In addition to the Digital Health Village, what we can bring to the table is basically modern EMR systems, allowing use of fully structured data, but also capability to take that data and connect it to Helsinki University Hospital Data Lake, which is a huge repository of medical data that we have been building over the past 40 years. So some of the data ranges back to early 1980s. our machine learning projects run in the data lake. So we see that perhaps we could use them here as well. In addition to that, we have an industry collaboration network called Clever Health Network, and we believe that could be of use here as well. Next slide, please. Here is an image of some of the things that we already have and some of the things we don't. The things at the bottom of the screen are the things we already have built. The things that we would like to work with you on are the green arrows on the left, the patient data and so-called my data that we would like to bring in. But also the top half, the research, the services, the applications to come out of this. I would like to leave that to you. What would you like to see that? What research, what services, what applications? We'd like to hear from you. Next slide, please. Whatever the research, whatever the applications, we see this as a win-win-win scenario for everybody. We see that it obviously benefits the clinicians and the decision makers, but it also benefits the people who create these therapies, people who create the devices, or pharmaceutical companies, device manufacturers, so forth. But of course, most importantly, we see that the patients benefit. Next slide, please. So if any of this has been of interest to you and you feel like we could perhaps collaborate, we are interested in other care providers, hospitals with capabilities and interest to develop, pilot, and implement this framework in jointly chosen pilots. And we're, of course, interested in industry partners and small and medium-sized enterprises who share our interest. For example, device manufacturers and pharmaceutical companies. I think that was just about 4 minutes, so that's the end of my pitch to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mirki, for your presentation. And I would like to call Jan to our virtual stage.
Thank you very much. My name is Jens Wedding. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the Ludwig Boltzmann Institute for Digital Health and Prevention on facilitating situated and longitudinal people-centered digital health with shared decision-making and a modular open research platform. Next slide, please. So we all recognize the quite amazing potential, truly, of PROMs, PPI, and PREMs, if rightly deployed, to facilitate more comprehensive people-centered digital health. And if we manage to deploy them in a situated and longitudinal manner, giving really equitable voice to people and patients. This does require, however, highly acceptable, usable, and reliable tools, fostering engagement and empowerment, also distributing, collecting subjective voice, questionnaires, surveys, and so on. We need to integrate with additional measures, for example, patient-generated data through wearables, and also with existing data sources as patient-contributed data. So what we propose here are some concepts that we would be happy to bring into a consortium that is looking for partners. Next slide, please. The building blocks that we already engage in is working towards an easily extensible, open source, scalable, and real-time ready platform for patient-generated evidence that we call the modular open research platform MORE. I comment on that in a second. Projects in this area would also need to closely integrate with developing standards like HL7 FHIR, specifically for PROs and PGD, which we already help establish. And then also tools are required to efficiently support patient and public involvement up to really stakeholder-driven citizen science. So next slide, please. We bring in a really considerable team, 37 interdisciplinary and international researchers associated with our institutes, really bringing in experience with large-scale projects, various associations, among others, IMI2, H2O, IdeaFast, Further H 2020, and Interact projects, etc. Next slide, please. And what we can offer is really the full cycle of research, development, and deployment in technical terms. We have a strong technical team, great capability in open innovation and science, a medical team, and so on. So we have a general vision, mission, and goal that encompasses building sort of sustainable behavior change technologies. And we're very used to going into the context, working up stakeholder requirements, seeing what's needed, where the gaps are, then bringing that together with technologies that are available to do iterative development, then go into patient and clinical settings, and also for selected applications, really go into implementation science. Thank you. Next slide. One example being the Active Plan app, planning and documentation app around exercise activities and rehabilitation and prevention. This one's focused on cardiovascular disease for the moment. This includes shared decision-making processes and also aspects for fostering sustainable motivation and support. Next slide, please. We also develop this modular open research platform that is a unique sort of synergetic environment consisting of a web manager app to set up studies or iterative development accompanying evaluation procedures. If you're developing a digital health application, for example, it can also serve as a generic telehealth monitoring solution. And then there is a patient-facing or user-facing smartphone applications with it that carry users, for example, through study setups or through continuous monitoring settings. This is sort of efficient because it is GDPR ready and ideal for example, doing ongoing DIGA validations. Next slide, please. We also have a unique synergistic environment that we are happy to work in because we offer the technological expertise and multidisciplinary perspectives, but we integrate very closely with the University Institute for Sports Medicine, Rehabilitation Center, and the entire university campus, including Research University and University Hospital is right next door. So we can really go short pathways from concepts to testing things to implementation. Next slide, please. Yeah, with all that said, we would be very excited to collaborate, especially with any consortia seeking a dynamic digital health research and innovation unit with sound technical skills, as well as thorough scientific and research expertise. What we bring is full cycle research and development capabilities in digital health and prevention, as well as a modular open research platform, as well as innovative concepts for facilitating situated and longitudinal people-centered digital health, especially with shared decision-making as an important aspect of sort of joint work between healthcare professionals and patients, which is really important for achieving sustainable patient journeys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jan, for your presentation. Our next speaker is Berat.
Good afternoon. My name is Berat, and I'm the CEO of Alpine Intuition. I'm very happy to have this chance to talk about what we have been working on at Alpine Intuition, the digital twin and virtual immersion with human-assisted robotics coupling. Next slide, please. At Alpine Intuition, we aim to combine immersive virtual reality, gamification, and simulation in real time to build a novel platform for neurorehabilitation. Our solution involves a digital twin of coupled assistive robotic devices and human musculoskeletal systems as the core of our technological development. The final mission is to provide an evidence-based digital therapeutic environment to manage or prevent musculoskeletal diseases with or without assistive robotic devices. Our product brings different modalities to create an immersive experience for patients with ER and VR, a value-added simulation environment, and as well as personal data management for clinicians and assistive robotic companies. The driving motivations behind this project is the fact that the patients are struggling with the existing pipeline, as well as costly procedures along with the outdated technologies. Next slide, please. What we do so far is to automatize the creation of digital twin simulations for assistive robotic devices and human musculoskeletal models, assessment of the adequacy of using in silico simulations for the control design, and also we build a pipeline. Actually, we've been working on a pipeline to create a sim to real transfer, and also we work on the validation of the technology on patient data. Next slide, please. What we offer is expertise in AI and robotic simulation. The coupling technology that we developed for the assistive robotic devices and human musculoskeletal systems in simulation. And we also have expertise in the machine learning model development. And also we have already ongoing collaborations with some academic institutions and companies. Next slide, please. What we are looking for is partners from academic institutes and also open to initiate collaborations with private companies, especially in the field of assistive robotic devices and ER and VR. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Berat, for your presentation. And our next speaker is Alexander.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Alexander Müller-Rako, and I will present to you the contribution that Kite Design Research can make to possible collaborations of this call. Next slide, please. We are a small company working at the intersection of design and user experience research. Our aim is to provide partners with a deep understanding of patients and communicate relevant insights to stakeholders to create meaningful healthcare solutions. We are used to work closely with all kinds of users. We observe and investigate complex processes and identify challenges to develop and implement strategies and services. Next, please. To support the consortium, we strive to improve the collection and integration of patient input in order to facilitate decision-making and in order to better respond to patients' needs. We do this by creating and adapting context-tailored qualitative and quantitative research methods, as well as integrating patient-generated data for patient-centered healthcare solutions. We have organized and conducted dozens of participatory formats and are highly experienced in conceptualizing and implementing a diverse spectrum of methods. Those methods reach, for example, from qualitative sociological ones to those of human-machine interaction or design thinking. Next, please. Additionally, we aim to improve the use of patient input for all stakeholders involved by highlighting its values and visualize different forms of data collection. Furthermore, we develop use cases for these visualizations, the patient input methods, and the combined use of prompts, PPIs, and PRAMs. Next slide, please. Our expertise consists in collecting, mapping, and translating insights to improve communication and outcomes in all research phases. With our design expertise, we also transfer these insights into product and service ideas, like, for example, interface design, UX design for apps, and as well as educational material and recommendations for action within the processes. Next slide, please. Our approach is framed by three important aspects. It is participatory, it is iterative, as design itself, and third, evidence-based. It strengthens the patient involvement in data integration along the research process. Next slide, please. Our past projects involved also vulnerable patient groups such as elderly and children. On the left and bottom, you can see snapshots of workshops with people with dementia. And on the top, there are pictures of videographic recordings we conducted to see how patients use their insulin pen at home and what difficulties and needs arise there. Next slide, please. Here is a short overview of project partners, collaborations. Some are in the medical context, others have been in the field, such as digitization, education, and sustainability. And we as a team, we were and still are passionately working in academic, both research and education. Next slide, please. So what are we looking for? We are looking for a consortium that values the patient-centered research and development, that values design as a tool for communicating insights and for improving healthcare solutions. Thank you very much for listening. Feel free to contact us, and thank you.
Thank you, Alexander, for your presentation. And our next speaker for this session is Aristodemos. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Aristodemos Pneumatikakis, and I'm with Innovation Sprint, a Belgium-based startup. My speech topic today is about collecting patient-generated data and to introduce to you our product, the Healthciencia platform. So if we can move to the next slide, then we can see that the challenge we are mostly interested in has to do with managing chronic disease patients. These patients are mostly away from the clinical setting. Occasionally, they visit hospitals or other healthcare organizations, but mostly they are at home. So we have to collect real-world data from our patients' everyday setting, and that's the first challenge we need to address. We need to do so in for a long duration, so we have to maintain the patient adherence in the long run, and we have to offer remote patient management. So if we move to the next slide, we can see that the main activities that have to do with what we can offer, the Healthencia eClinical platform, has to do with the patient companion mobile app. This application is used by the patients in order to have data collected for them using devices and their SDKs, have data collected from them via questionnaires or via widgets that they manipulate in order to give us data. We also have a data management and processing platform where all the data is collected and also where we can actually ingest more data using the APIs of device providers. And then we have the healthcare professional portal application. This is a web-based application for doctors to actually manage studies, create the studies, invite the patients, view what is happening across the whole cohort and view what is happening in individual patients themselves. And if we then move to the next slide, then what we can offer is this eClinical platform, Healthencia, that facilitates the complete patient data cycle, including collecting, managing, understanding, and visualizing patients' real-world data. Healthencia is nowadays a Class 1 medical device, CE-marked, and it is currently under evaluation for Class 2A. It is used by large pharma and healthcare organizations across Europe. And us as a company, Innovation Sprint is the 2022 winner of the Disruptive Health category of the Innovation Radar Awards. What we seek is a consortium that actually needs a system, a platform to collect and manage patients' data. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Aristodemos, for your presentation. Thank you very much. And our last speaker for the session is Catherine.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me today. So today I'm going to be talking about our project, our proposal, which aims at empowering patients with data for better outcomes with a holistic federated platform. Next slide, please. So the problem that we're addressing here is that it's really difficult to empower data owners to actually share their data so that we can make sense of this data. Many reasons to support that, such as the data that is really fragmented, not only in the healthcare ecosystem, but within data owner own reality. The format of the data is really disparate. There are perceived issues with data security, data privacy, which makes access to quality data very, very difficult. So with Genèse, we aim to put in place and to continue the development of this federated AI-based platform that intermediates between data owners, so it could be patient, hospitals, pharmaceutical companies who own the data, and algorithm AI providers to make sense of this data, as well as healthcare providers and product manufacturers. Integrating not only PROMs, PPI and PREMs, but also lifestyle data, for instance, coming from smart houses. This to have a full and holistic picture on one side of the patient's well-being and on the other side of one's trajectory of care, one's product life cycle, so that Genèse can intermediate between these two or three or n entities in order to make sense and make this data talk. So concrete example of potential results and expected impact, we aim at developing a framework to integrate patient input or reuse an existing framework, focusing on easing the burden on data owners so that the machine can take over data standardization, data normalization, allowing patients and healthcare provider to ingest data within Genèse in the form of free text and voice, for instance, using machine learning techniques such as natural language processing to make this data talk, and normalizing and standardizing this data dynamically so that it could be used and run against multiple algorithms depending on the intended use and why we want to use this data for. So the infrastructure is not a data lake on a Genèse perspective, it's a data mesh where each federated members, an instance represented by an instance or an account, can ingest their data related to their smart houses, to their test results, to PROMs related information, federate it, make it available, and then monetize the data. So in the case of patient, we aim at motivating patients to actually share anonymously in a fully secure way their data so that they can contribute to creating treatments. We have currently a case study with a rare disease that will lead to new methodologies, and we aimed at demonstrating the applicability of the framework and the infrastructure in this real situation with our current partners. Next slide, please. So the main activities is to develop, review, integrate the framework in the form of machine learning algorithm, again, in order to represent the data, make the data talk in a way that is that requires the least amount of change management from a patient and a healthcare system perspective. We want to have 2 or 3 case studies in order to apply our platform. And we aim at facilitating multi-stakeholder access to patient inputs. So on one side, the patient data, on the other side, trajectory of care's owner, and as well as product manufacturers, researchers, R&D teams that aim at improving either the healthcare, the trajectory of care or their products. And finally, developing an approach or approaches to integrating this data together in order to gain a more holistic view of products, trajectory of cares, and a patient lifespan. Next slide, please. So we can contribute. Our whole R&D pipeline is already planned. We have 4 million euros to contribute. We're coming from Canada. As such, we're not eligible for the grant, but the government of Quebec is really interested in the project, aims at creating their own project ecosystem in Montreal in order Quebec and the rest of Canada to support this project on a Canadian-Quebec perspective. We have currently the Swansea University that's interested, an ongoing project with McGill University, Universitat of Groupe Jolimont from Belgium, CEDNA from Montreal, Respiratory Innovation Wales, as well as a few AI providers that aim at making their AI expertise available on the platform to make the data talk. Next slide, please. So the expertise that we're looking for, project manager and coordinator partner, research institutes, large companies such as biopharma companies, sensors designer or devices manufacturers who want to participate and take a shot at the data using our AI technologies. SMEs that are willing to share their data to demonstrate the feasibility of the Genèse federated platform, communities, patients, hospitals, as well as SMEs developing AI for the life science sector. Next slide, please. I think it's the last one, right?
That's the last one, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, all the speakers, for your contributions. And before we close this session, there was a few questions on the chat how to contact the speakers. So our recommendation is just go up to the top menu, pictures, call 3 sessions, and all the pictures for all the sessions are listed there. You can just click on the picture that you want to contact, send a message, book a meeting via the platform. As we mentioned before, the platform is available until the 20th of April next year, so you can still use it for your meetings even after the IHI Call Days. Thank you again for all the speakers for your contributions. We look forward to seeing you at the next sessions, which are tomorrow morning. And have a nice evening, everyone. Thank you.